Yeah, see by my clock that it's 3 o'clock, time to call to order the Board of Directors regular meeting study session for Thursday, September 14th. Could I have a roll call, please?
Director Meyerhoffen,
Present.
Director Duff,
Present.
Director Griffith,
Present.
Vice President Sewell,
Here.
President Martin.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Okay, we'll skip item number 3 as all board members are present. And we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance on Monday. And we'll also do the rules of procedure on Monday as well. Public input. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters within the board's jurisdiction. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. State law prohibits the board from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the agenda. Do we have any members of the public wishing to address the board?
Not online, we do not.
Okay. With that, we'll move to the Human Resources Report. We're going to do that today.
We're actually just going to announce a retirement. Would you like to make a presentation or?
Let's see, I wonder which one it is that's retiring. I can't imagine who that would be.
Yes, as we mentioned before the meeting, Nancy has been with us for 31 years and we celebrated her retirement early this morning. But her last day is tomorrow. So if we would have waited till Monday, we would have missed this opportunity. Oriana, go ahead.
Oriana, that microphone is not on.
As General Manager Macy noted, Nancy Mesquita is retiring after 31 years of service. I would like to invite her direct manager, April Scott. She has a few words for her.
Okay. April?
By the way, Nancy, with her 31 years, is the longest term employee that we have to date. So 31 years.
Good afternoon, President Martin, members of the board, interim General Manager Macy. Nancy has been an integral part of our customer service department in the district for over 31 years. And it's of committed hard work and dedicated service to our community. Throughout her time here, Nancy has demonstrated dedication to her role and adapted to many changes in the front office and challenges with a positive attitude. And I just really want to say thank you so much, Nancy, for your dedication, your hard work, and your support of your team, the district, and the community as a whole. You'll be very, very missed. Thank you. Would you like to say a few words?
It's mandatory. You have to.
And she is wearing a tiara because it is her day.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. It has been a great 31 years. I really enjoy my job, but I think it's time to move on to a new chapter that I'm really looking forward. So thank you all.
And my final comment is your position will be filled, but you'll never be replaced. Okay. And with that, I want to stand up and give her a nice applause.
Thank you so much.
Great. Brian, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I can't top that.
Oh, sure.
Down or stay up? Oh, you guys can stay up. We'll just move.
We'll
You guys
stay up.
Together. There we go. Please. Just scoot on down. There we go.
Yeah, here we go.
Mhm. I'll be grabbing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And as I said, Brian, did you want to make any comments or?
No, the only thing I would like to add that there is cake upstairs if you would like to have a
I
piece.
saw that when I got my coffee. I was tempted, but I thought I'll wait till after.
No, she will be missed.
Okay.
Stop it.
Okay, moving on to item 8, public hearing, resolution 2023-21, energy service contract with NG Services US. It's recommended to adopt resolution 2023-21, energy services contract with NG Services US to design, build, and perform operations and maintenance services on the comprehensive energy and sustainability upgrades project. Right?
Thanks, President Martin. We will ask Danny Friend and Arturo. We've put together a presentation. What we hope to do today is provide a presentation of our third party or peer review, and then we'll allow Angie to respond to that. And then we'll take questions from the board, and then we'll move forward with the public hearing on Monday. Thank you. Danny?
Thank you, General Manager Macy. Good afternoon, President Martin, members of the board. And here we go. Today, the process and the purpose of the presentation is what we're going to go through today. If I can get the next slide, please. We're going to talk today at the study session, of course, the due diligence and the peer review that was presented by staff will be presented by staff. Next, it'll be followed by a presentation by NG, followed by board questions. Monday, we're going to have the hearing, the public hearing. If there's necessary, we'll do additional staff presentations or additional NG presentations. Questions from the public, board questions, and of course, action. So next slide, please. Our due diligence process, the peer review, it was a legal review by SBMP, John Pinckney, Robert Patterson. The engineering review was done by Kenwood Energy, a third party, and that was Tim Holmes and Donna Boysen. And of course, our financial review was done by our bond counsel, specifically Cyrus Tarabi over at Stradling Law. There are really 4 specific parts of the review process or this peer review process: the cost of the project, the NG contract, the project timing, and the financing component. So what we have here is the cost of the project. Initially, it was $19.3 million. The table on the right, specifically the bottom number, $4,636, it refers to a dollar amount or a cost per kilowatt, and that is representing the original approximate $19.3 million. The project cost today, as presented by NG, is 18.8. And at the bottom of that, the third bullet it brings the project cost approximately down to 4,500 per kilowatt. Per our third party review, Kenwood Energy, they mentioned that this is a typical way to measure the cost of a solar project and for comparison purposes. The next part was Kenwood's past projects. So what I really want to, the average cost is about $2,761 per kilowatt. What I really want to point down to is from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There it says Napa. Thank you. The 2 wastewater facilities. Those are the ones that I really want to point out. They're the most applicable that we feel. Both are wastewater treatment plants. Both are 1 megawatt in size. Both are in one location. And here's the cost of those roughly. Let me see if I can actually see, about between $3,200 a kilowatt and $3,500 a kilowatt. The others, we don't know the prevailing wage. We're still looking into those, but there is another water district, as you can see, it's a smaller project, but as this project is still being looked at as far as the review process. But focusing on the 2 projects that are most applicable, one of the things that we want to really point out is the timing of those projects. They were actually bid in 2021. One project was completed in 23, and the second, I can't tell you which one of them it is, but between the 2 wastewater plants, the other is still being completed here in 2023. expected not to have the expected to be, I guess, more money than ours would because of the inflation. We do recognize that from 2021 to 2023, there has been a cost of construction increase. So that would be something to think about. Our project, so we're not saying that it should be $3,200 a kilowatt, but it's just for comparison purposes. We do recognize that from a project from 2021, 2 years later, there are going to be changes in cost, or differences in cost rather. And this next slide is, we also took a look at the contract. We are still looking at several different things. Of course, we went through the cost. So cost is a big item for the district. There are some items like change order language. It's been explained to staff, but we're not necessarily in agreement by what it means. So we're negotiating that. Ownership of contract documents, there's something that's been pointed out that we are still looking at. It's not consistent with most of our projects. At the end of the day, when we complete it, we own the documents. Construction materials and specifications. There's an attachment. It's shown in the board packet, but not provided. It's similar to another West County wastewater project, but those are things that we're looking at as far as making sure that we specify the materials, the type of material, specifications of that material, so that we can ensure that we're getting a good product. Next slide. And that's what I thought. This next part is more financial related, so I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Arturo.
You just referred to an attachment. Can you tell us where we can find that was in the packet? Because I'm not seeing it.
I thought it was in the packet, and I may have misspoke then.
No, it's listed as attachment G, but it is not in that was not the slide. It's not in the packet.
Oh,
So we apologize for that. What ended up happening, it was being worked on by our consultant. It wasn't available at the time of publish. And since then, they've embedded it into attachment C, which is another part of the contract, and it will be added once we negotiate the other terms. So it will be part of the final package, and we'll bring that back to you as a final document.
We don't have it today.
But we don't have it today,
No.
no.
Or Monday.
We should have it to you. We will be able to provide it on
Oh,
Monday.
okay.
It will be able to, there's certain parts that may be answered by the other presenters, but we have some other information as we're still working with Kenwood, and we're hoping to bring some additional information to you all on Monday.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't want to go into all that. Thank you, gentlemen.
Danny, so you don't have to get up a second time? You showed 2 overhead views or plot plans there in your presentation. What are those of?
Slide 2, please.
Okay, yeah, there's the first one.
That specifically is well 29.
So there's gonna be that many panels there, all the blue is representing the panels, correct?
Correct. The blue is representing panels. This particular site, I can tell you, since we've been looking at it, it involves tree removal in order to go ahead and not, for one, to have the actual footprint, for 2, to not have any blockage of generation, for sun. They have walked all the projects. They've looked at everything. They have determined what's the most that we could put at each of these sites.
That's the only excuse I hope I ever hear about tree removal.
I know that's dear to your heart. I understand.
Yes, sir. Now, the next, you showed one more overhead. It's down towards the end by the financing. There was another,
Oh,
or maybe,
it was a different slide. I'm sorry.
yeah, there was a different slide there that had another overhead on there. Oh, there it is. So what's going on? What's in between there? Is it a reservoir and now there's a holding pond and we got solar panels in between it? Or?
The best I can describe, that looks like well 32. The reservoir, and I might be, that looks like well 32 in our Little Morongo Reservoir. So to the right of the blue outlined by red, the red represents a fire lane. That's typically what they show on past drawings. But the right-hand side is a reservoir. The top would be north, and where it cuts out is one of the original ponds when we developed the well during construction. Is still there for future development or future any type of rehabilitation. And I may have missed your question.
No, I was just wondering, my question now is why are we putting something in between those two? Is it a little something different there? Or?
Well,
This makes it easier. You know how we always talk about flowing together?
true. So what has been identified is the facilities that have energy use. They've looked at all the different types of energy use, what would be able to have their generation offset. And they looked at every site specifically. And looking at this site, what you don't see on the right-hand side is you see wells and booster stations where we need access. The red itself will give us that access for this particular project, but it may seem like it's in the way or it's in an odd location, but it really isn't. It's in the back area of it still allows us to do future rehab of the reservoir and still have full use of that site.
So then the reservoir won't be shining any or
No, those are
you know,
questions.
shade because of the reservoirs.
That's a great question. Those are questions we all had. At one time we wanted to go ahead and talk about putting them on top of reservoirs. If we couldn't get more footprint area, there's a lot more that goes into that. There's the integrity of the reservoir and what type of improvements you have to do on those reservoirs just to do that. So we're comfortable that the locations and the areas where they're being placed, because that was really vetted by staff. They wanted to make sure that we didn't impact operations, not only day to day, but future rehabs or any work on sites.
And then at the Nancy Wright and the Horton treatment plant, we're gonna have the same type of thing going on there.
I wish I could pull up
Actually, they were part of your packet.
yeah.
Okay,
It would have been the probably the solar proposal, number 4, exhibit B.
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. I'll look at it later. We got
Right.
any time.
Yeah.
No, you want to bring it up.
Starting on page 33.
Okay.
Overhead.
Thank you, Ashu.
All right.
So yeah, it is part of the packet, but if there's, I'll be
No,
happy
no.
to come back up if there's further questions
Yeah.
today or tomorrow or Monday.
Yeah,
But there are
others.
footprints at both sites.
Good
One is going to be for the north of the actual regional location, the Nancy Wright facility.
all right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Okay. Arturo.
Thank you, General Manager Macy, President Martin, and members of the board. I just wanted to remind everyone that you're not approving any sort of financing today or Monday. You're strictly reviewing the part of the contract to do the work. We are still working on some of the details of the financing. There is some stipulations in the Inflation Reduction Act that basically depends on how the project gets done, that the amount of the grant gets approved. For example, if the materials are made in America, there's a 10% additional discount or additional grant. If we're using taxable versus non-taxable debt, that also plays into it, about a 15%. So we're going through all of that in addition to what you see in here, 10% grant if all the materials or 5% of the materials are ordered before the end of the year. That's an additional 10% of the grant. So we're reviewing those just to make sure that all those answers have been provided so that we can feel comfortable approving or recommending that we go this route. The one loan that we did go after submitting a request, Bank of America came in with the lowest interest rate that they proposed at 4.25%. That was approved through the end of the month. We requested an extension, knowing very well that this is probably going to go a little bit longer in terms of the financing. So you have more time to review the information, and they approved a 2-week extension through the 13th of October. If we were looking at those numbers today, that would be a 4.5% interest. Yesterday, the CPI for August was released, adding to the inflation by 0.3% or 0.3 points of the CPI. So that's total for over a year, 3.7 in terms of the index. So we're looking at interest rates going up as the day goes by. So in September, we'll have a better picture after the third quarter. But for now, they are again going up, and that was an additional in August. The project must be completed by March 2026 in order to meet that net energy metering 2.0 before it goes into the new process. We are still waiting on the final terms of the loan with Bank of America. Our bond counsel is going back and forth, making sure that we clarify a lot of the information. The way that they presented it is that we're going to be paying interest for the 18 months that this is going to be going in construction. I don't think we want to do that. We do not want to go into capitalized interest. It gets very complicated. We do not want to keep adding to the loan and then paying interest on top of interest. That's not to the benefit of the district. And so we're asking for different ways to approach this, in addition to running it by all of our other debts that we have. This debt is tied to our revenues, both sewer and water. And that means that every other debt that we have out there that is tied to our revenues has to approve that we go into this loan so that they can see that the revenues coming in are going to be sufficient to cover both loans, not only the current one we're going to get into, plus every other one we have out there that is secured by the revenues of the district, which is very important. The line should say CPA, not auditor, is to certify the debt coverage ratios. They're going over the numbers and basically ensuring that what we provided them is accurate. We're sitting at about 3.20% over the 125 that they require. So I'm confident that we're within those numbers if that's the way we want to go with the process of the financing. We do have in one way or another able to refinance because there is a prepayment process that we have to go through. We cannot refinance with Bank of America. We would have to finance it with another bank and then just pay early to Bank of America. That's the process that we go about to meet this refinancing if we wanted to and have that option. There's again, part of the information that is being presented between our bond counsel and Bank of America is that escrow account. Once the monies are deposited into the account, how does Angie get paid? What do they have to provide and make sure that both parties agree to those terms? And again, the estimated right now return on our investment break even is basically 8 to 9 years. And then you add the years of construction, that's another 1.5 years. So in essence, yeah, we're going to see a benefit. We are still looking at what that benefit is going to look like. And pass it back to Mr. Macy.
Thank you, Arturo. But yes, so the final thoughts are that the project will have a significant benefit to the district as is. However, we're continuing to work with NG on the finer parts of the contract. First of all, cost, and as Arturo was talking about, the financing. So with that being said, we can take our questions now, or we can allow NG to give a presentation, and then we can take all the questions at the end. It's completely up to the boards.
Let's let Ashu speak
Okay.
now, and then, because he may answer questions.
That's what we were assuming.
Ashu.
Thank you.
These are just the revised proposal. Good afternoon, President Martin, members of the board, staff, Ashu Jain with Angie. Staff hired Kenwood Energy a couple of weeks ago. I've known Kenwood Energy, Tim Holmes, for 20 years, outstanding guy. And we've been working with him for the last couple of years on a project for West County Wastewater District. So we are, we are happy that the district chose Kenwood Energy, and he's a tough guy to work with. I mean, I'll be frank, he's really tough for us. So, but he's a fair guy. So, I'd rather take that over somebody, who doesn't know what he's doing. So, and easy to work with. So anyway, Mr. Macy did send me the presentation yesterday. I looked at it, and I've been on the road. I got home at after midnight last night, so I didn't have a lot of chance to prepare. But what I did, I had sent an email to Mr. Macy and Mr. Friend about the pricing, because he wanted to know what our final, best and final is, and I did give him that, and that was where I reduced the price by $500,000. And there's an email that I'm just gonna give you the copy of the email so that I can go through the various points. You'll have this.
Thank you.
So Mr. Macy and Mr. Friend called me a few days ago and said, they're not satisfied with our pricing. And when we do our pricing, we don't, a price is a price. We don't not very used to negotiating on it. So, but they were very insistent. So I said, okay, my principle in life is we're a very customer focused company. If you're asking me for a price and you're asking me for a discount, I'll do the best I can. So we went back, we looked thoroughly. We also looked at the information that Kenwood Energy provided them. And fortunately, one of the two projects that they talked about was our project for West County Wastewater District. That was around $3,400 a kilowatt. It was approved in September of 21. So, I wanted to clarify for Mr. Macy and Mr. Friend, every project that we do is very different. So in the first point there, I'm just outlining how your project is actually much more complicated than the project for West County Wastewater District. So I won't go through every one of them, but your project, there are several sites. We have long electrical runs. On two of them, we have electrical runs of over 1,000 feet. When you exceed 1,000 feet, you have to put a step-up transformer and a step-down transformer to minimize the wiring losses. There was nothing like that at West County. So that added a lot of cost. For the Res BCT project, our project price includes paying Edison to do their upgrades, which they will ask the district to pay. So it includes, our estimate of what their cost will be. Plus, we are upgrading the entire switchgear because right now it's a small project. We're going to make it 3 times larger. So again, that is something that is very unique to your project. There's a lot of civil work involved here. We had $17,000 in civil work cost at West County. We have over $400,000 here. You won't like to hear this, sir, but we are cutting down trees here, which we were not at West County. So, and that's expensive. So looking at all this and the fact that if you look at the California construction cost index, there has been a 21% price increase since September of 21 to now, till September of 23. So looking at all this, I think what we were charging you was a fair price. And now we've reduced it by $500,000. So I think the district is getting a very good price out of us. I think your staff has done a phenomenal job in negotiating with us to further reduce a good price. I would also like to point out, and this is something you can talk to West County, we have not asked West County for a change order. We don't work on the basis of change orders. We are not making any profit on the solar project there because it's taken a lot of time to build and not because of us. And also the other thing I forgot to mention, West County was a sole source negotiated $63 million project. The solar project was a tiny part of that project. So our fixed costs went to the other $60 million rather than, the other part of the scope. So the solar project was such a tiny part that it didn't see all the project management, construction management costs just for that. Here, we'll have an on-site construction manager fully dedicated to just the solar project. So looking at all that, I think, we have given you a very fair price. And I think in the items before, I just list down, and some of this already been covered by our staff, the cost of delay, the interest rate is a phenomenal interest rate. If you use the interest rate today, you'll lose around $500,000 just on interest rate if you delay the project. The IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, there is a provision that if you do not start construction in 2023, you lose 10%. Equivalent to 639,000. We're gonna do our best because you have to not only you have to spend that show expenditure, and expenditure is not ordering panels, it's receiving them. We have a whole plan in place to order panels and to receive them in time for the IRA. So that's a lot of work that we'll have to do. And, you know, so we have that, you know, ultimately, this project is not going to be financially very attractive if you miss the March 2026 deadline. So we are always worried about that because, you know, dealing with Southern California Edison, delays in, you know, electrical switchgear, we don't have a lot of time. And so anyway, those are some of the points I wanted to highlight about, you know, why we think we offered you a very fair price, which is even more fair now, and why delays will hurt this project. I also, what I've provided you the presentation, it was just a revision. It's the same presentation with a revised price. When we started this project, when we did our first study session, I think our average savings in the 20 years was, don't quote me on this, it was around 250,000. Today it's 380,000. This is within a span of a month. So we've been, you know, obviously with the help of your staff, and we got some help from Southern California Edison because they increased the rates. So we've been, you know, the much more attractive project today than it was when we initially came in front of you. I'll be happy to take any questions, and I don't know if I would. Yeah.
Amber, you have any questions?
I was hoping not to go first, but I'll start, and if something comes
I'll
back,
come back to you.
there you go. One question based on what you just actually presented. Looking at the pamphlet that you gave under project cost, page 6, you stated that the cost for the 20-year guaranteed performance, that's the 20 years guaranteeing of the, oh, what did you word it? I'm sorry. Inverters and
Savings?
such. Is that correct? That's the 20-year warranty on the inverters and things?
No, that actually is not. That's actually, we are guaranteeing the savings for 20 years, and there's a cost to that because we monitor the project. And we provide monthly reports. And so that's the cost.
So the 20-year guaranteed performance cost of almost 500,000 has nothing to do with the 20-year warranty that we're receiving. What's the cost value of the 20-year warranty we're receiving?
It's the inverters. The panels come guaranteed. I'm gonna guess it's 300,000-400,000, maybe less. But we are still the O&M. We are doing operation and maintenance. That's separate from all of this. That's not part of the project cost.
And then a lot to digest here. Sorry. The other question I have, you know, there's so much pressure about not losing that 10%, right? The
Right.
600,000. And we're a very small district, as you know, and there isn't a whole lot of money to go around. Okay.
Yeah.
So is there any way that NG is able to maybe split this into parts? Like, can you potentially order, you know, the solar panels and get started on that part as one portion of a contract? And then we have like maybe 3 tiers of the contract so that this is something that can be spread a little bit. I'm just trying to see how, because you can't guarantee that we're going to be able to get everything in time as the contract sits now. So it's hard for me to kind of feel worried about potentially losing it, because it's not like signing this is giving us a guarantee.
We're not, we don't guarantee any federal program. So yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not sure how that will actually work. I mean, we need to order, we have to spend 5% of the contract amount. That's as per the rules of the IRA. a lot depends on the auditors at IRA. So our company's principle is you have to spend 7.5 to have a cushion. So we're gonna, order all the panels, order all the inverters. And we are in talks with manufacturers. And, we got approval last night for a $26 million project from Santa Maria Bonita School District, from the night before for a $39 million project for Ventura Unified. We are gathering all these panels, and there is a conference called RE Plus that is going on right now. It is the biggest renewable energy conference, and we are in, and I think it ends today in Las Vegas. We are negotiating live with those suppliers to, like, if we place an order on September 30th, can you make sure that we get delivery? There are we have a number of people who just devote time on the IRA, and it's going to get a little complicated, but there is a provision which not many people are aware of, that if we order material and if we receive the panel by March 31st, 2024, they will still allow the 10%. So we are banking on that. So we are, we're on top of this. I can't guarantee it, but I'm very hopeful that it will be achieved. But we have to order all the panels. We can't do part of it.
Director Duff, we are also reaching out to distributors to see if we can make a direct purchase as well.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
we'll work through that particular issue one way or the other.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question I had, I understand the 21% increase between, trying to talk oranges to oranges, right? So if we took out the $400,000 excess for the removal of the trees that you listed as the separate expense, and we went and looked at that $3,500 figure, the most expensive one, 21% on that isn't the numbers we're looking at. So can you kind of help me understand where the rest of it's going, or how the rest of it got calculated? Because there's nothing here that's telling me where all of that has come from.
Right. So, well, 21% on 35 will bring it to 42. 4,200, right? Yeah, 700, 4,200.
We're still $1.5 million above.
Still,
Yeah.
9%. But then if you look at my email, the top part, that was a very different project from this project.
Right.
Long lengths of conduit, there was no RESBCT project there. It was, and this is multiple projects. So it was the long length, and every project is different. I'm not saying that the California Construction Index went up by 25%. That means our cost went up by, gone up by more. But there are reasons why the cost went up, and that's what I'm outlining in that how your project is more complicated than a standard, than at least the West County project.
Okay. I think I'm good with my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
If some more come to light, you jump in. Robert.
All right, just for clarification and specifics, okay. I'm not gonna, because I don't know how this corresponds with what I have in here. I think it was part of the contract Article 3B regarding permits. States permits are not included in the project. So the price that we're talking about does not include the procurement of permits for these projects. Is that correct?
No, so there are two costs that the district will have. The district is self-permitting, so we have, yes, there are no permitting costs. We do not do CEQA in-house, and the staff is aware of that. So that is one cost that we've not included.
Okay.
And the other costs are where we have a conflict of interest, where you have to hire an inspector to inspect our cost, or do a lab test or something of the concrete or something. That is not included by us, but those are all minor costs, but there are costs that we not included.
Do you have any idea what, let's say, the total of that might be, just ballpark?
For lab testing, how much do you think it could be?
And
maybe
permits,
100,000.
permits?
So we should be able to self-certify on most of our projects or most of our locations. The only one that is in question is north of the Wright facility where we have our existing solar field and adding to that particular field. The way we can self-certify by county water agency is that we're producing water or treating sewer. Because we're not at that specific solar facility, we'd have to add to that particular CEQA document as an addendum, which we've talked about doing as part of the critical services center and things like that. When we did it for the Two Bunch location, I believe it was around $25,000 or $30,000. So relatively inexpensive compared to the total project cost, but still a cost.
And so we don't need permits.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So, and this is a question for you. For C, it says that they'll have one single point representative here at MSWD. Have you identified who that will be?
No, we have not.
Okay.
We-
I don't want it to be you.
No, it's not going to be me, and it will probably be a third party only because while we are very good at water and sewer, we're not at electricity. So we would hire somebody else to oversee it on our behalf.
Okay. So I would just want to talk about the guaranteed savings because there's some stuff in there to be clear. So there's a provision for payment if you don't realize the guaranteed savings that you will pay us, and then if subsequent year there's excess, you get that back kind of to repay. What happens if you start out with excess from the start and you have that every year?
You keep it.
We keep it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a shared savings.
If we have excess in the first year and then we don't have guaranteed the second year, does that cover that? Does it reduce that guarantee for the year two?
It's a rolling guarantee. So if in the first year we have excess and in the second year we lose money, we
It'll kinda
don't make
offset.
enough, it'll offset.
Okay.
But if you keep having excess, we don't, it's
Okay.
a one way.
Okay. And so I saw in the maintenance, it includes the PV cleaning once per year. And I know this is your final offer, but is it possible for you to give us 2 per year? Because in the desert.
We might be doing 3 per year. That's
Okay.
on us. We guarantee 95% savings. We monitor every solar project 24/7. If we see that, in this area, we have to wash panels again, we'll do it twice, we'll do it 3 times.
Okay, because
That's entirely up to us.
okay, I just say, because in this area, you have to.
Yeah. And we do a lot of work in the Central Valley, in the farmlands and all that. So,
Yeah.
we're used to.
And then as far as when I went through your KWH costs, so for example, we had the Horton show the cost of 0.2077 for kilowatt hour currently. And annual usage was 1,786,022, was a cost of 379.74. So the proposal states an offset of 42.2%. That means that the PV would cover all but about 1,032,320 kW,
Okay.
which would reduce the cost to basically 214,412. That's a savings of 156,562. But further in the contract, it says you're using a base rate of 0.0948 to determine the savings. And if you multiplied that 1,032,000 kilowatt hours, they're looking at a cost of now it's 97 roughly, given a savings is 273,016. So just kind of curious why you're at 20 right now and then it drops to 9 to calculate your savings,
Right,
which seems
right.
inflated a little bit.
You're sure you're not in the industry, the solar industry?
I'm not in the industry, but
That's a very, great question. So you're spending at an average of, let's say, I don't know which well you were talking about.
I was looking at Horton.
Horton.
I mean, I actually did all of them, but I figured for
20
brevity.
cents right now. But we're only saving you. Solar doesn't save you the entire cost.
Right.
You still have to pay demand charges and all. So our avoided rate, which I don't have, would be 10 cents. So even if you're producing 40% of the energy, it's not going to save you 40% of the bill. It'll save you 20% of the bill.
Okay.
That's unfortunate, but it's a true. That's how a lot of people get sold solar projects, especially in the residential market,
Right.
because they tell you oh, you're paying 30 cents per kilowatt hour, so our rate is only 20. That's not true because you don't save 30 cents. You'll only save like 15 out of that. So we have identified clearly, and I don't have the contract in front of me that, let's say at Horton, if you're saying you'll save 10 cents, we've calculated that's even though you're spending 20 cents with Edison, you're only going to save 10 cents when you do solar. And so, but the financials, the cash flow is all based on the 10 cents.
Okay, because I was going based on the percentage, so.
Right.
Then.
The percentage we are talking about is the percentage of energy,
Right.
not the cost.
Right.
So if you're, let's say we are saying you're producing, I don't know, do I say energy or cost? I gotta look at.
It just basically says the offset was 42.2%. So instead of your annual usage of 1.7 million, it would drop your energy down to 1,032,000.
Right.
And so I just did the flat 20%, 20 cents on that, and there's a savings,
Right.
obviously. But if you're reducing that price even further,
It's
that's
not
where I'm
that
kind
they're
of
reducing the
confused.
price further, it's the other way around. It's not that attractive, actually. So the savings, let's say, I'll just take round numbers, 1,000,000 kilowatt hours. We're saying this site will produce 500,000 kilowatt hours.
Right.
Okay. With that, let's say that 1,000,000 kilowatt hours was at 20 cents. That's what you're paying. So your bill at that site would have been 200,000. So you would think that if you're producing half of it, 500,000, we would save half, which is 100,000. It's not true. The way solar works, we're only saving you 10 cents on that 500,000. So you're only going to see savings of 50,000, unfortunately. But all that has been factored into the cash flow. So we are not saving you half the consumption. We're only saving, we're saving you half the consumption, but not half the dollars, much less on the dollars.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then financial analysis page on 65, it shows lease payments. So are we leasing these or are we purchasing them?
It's a purchase, but it's called, it's an installment sale.
Okay.
So you are purchasing it, you'll be the owner from day one. Bank of America will have a security interest in the panels. If you default, they can take the panels
get 'em.
away. Yeah.
And okay.
Oh,
So
but I think it's a revenue pledge too. So it's, I'll let Artie know.
I forget the page, but so there is a page with figures in there and it shows lease payments. And total lease payments, page 65, the total lease payments show is $29,000, which is 10 or 29 million, which is 10 million more than what we're talking
Right.
about. So I'm a little confused on that.
That's just the interest, 20-year, if you look at your mortgage and you add up the mortgage, monthly mortgage for 30 years, you'll see it'll be several times your price of the home. Same principle here.
So that's what that includes.
Yeah, just interest.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then finally, my last one. So it shows annual degradation is noted at 0.5%.
Yeah.
Which is basically a 20% degradation over 20 years, right? So
10%.
not 80% efficiency after those 20 years. So is there a reason we don't look for panels that have a lower degradation rate? Because I do know that SunPower panels, and I know it's residential, but their degradation rate is no more than 8% over 25 years.
So the tier 1 panels have a guaranteed reduction of 15% over 25 years. Those are the panels that we use. That is the industry standard for what's called tier 1 panels. So it's 15%, 85% efficiency over 25 years is what is guaranteed on the wall.
Okay. That's all I got.
Thank you.
That's it?
Yeah.
Ted?
Yes. Some of these projects may be prevailing wages and some may not. Is that what I'm understanding?
Our projects are all prevailing wage because we only work for the public sector.
And
The project that we refer to as West County Wastewater District, that's a special district like you, and that's a prevailing wage project.
okay, so it's all prevailing wages. So have you given the district any breakdown on what the construction cost is for each one of these sites?
Yes, it's in your presentation
Okay.
on
Make sure.
slide
Page 6.
10. Slide 10 of the presentation I handed out today.
And well, 29 is the only well, according to your overhead views here I'm looking at, that is where you're gonna be removing trees, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so you have here. This is directed on, look at page 37. At the top here.
Mhm.
Where it says 3.5.3 says removal of 10 trees. And on this page, you're going to be charged $74,000 to remove 10 trees.
If that's what the contract says. If
That's
you know, if it's just
what I'm looking at here.
just not trees, there's brushes also, like that side or the other side.
It's what now?
So there's brushes that we are bushes, you mean? Yeah. Bushes. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't know where I am. There are bushes that you have to remove. So there might be 10 main trees, but there are bushes at other sites also that we have to take out. So 74,000 is for everything. I might have misspoken in my email that it's
Well, no,
just
I'm
for,
reading what I have in front of me.
right. No, I apologize for that.
So where it says clear grub and
That's
grade
yeah,
site.
that's the 400,000.
So the clearing of the grub and grading of the site.
Those are all the fire roads and everything. Yes.
Okay. So how much is it gonna cost for the grub and clear the site?
400,000.
400,000?
Yeah.
So then the tree removal. The 10 trees is 74,000?
I mean, you can say, yeah, we have 500,000 for tree removal and all the civil work.
Well, I'm sure that after I spoke with our
We'll take another look.
General Manager Macy there, that he's gonna be looking into that.
Okay. Understood.
Thank you. That's all I have for you.
Thank you.
Yes,
I guess just a big picture, more question to staff. Again, thank you for the presentation, and I mean, the $500,000 discount, I think, has gone a long way to help us get closer to where we want to be. But the staff report is recommended for us to approve this on Monday. And I guess my question is just to staff, are there things that are still yet to be determined before Monday that would cause you not to recommend us moving forward?
Absolutely. With some of the comments that we've just had here today about, well, one, the cost, but also some of the contract terms and making sure that the project specifications get entered into attachment C, there are going to be some updates. If we don't come, I think we agree on most everything except for cost. We can leave it as is and then substitute something on Monday, or I'll work with Dory to do it later today, depending on how much time we have. But we always can keep the public hearing open and then postpone, or not, excuse me, continue it to a date certain, possibly in October. So why we would, right now it's set up to be acted on Monday. We could continue the meeting to a date certain. Because I think at this point, the dollar amount is so just, we're so far apart right now. I don't know that we'll be able to get there by Monday. And if 18.8 is their final offer, based on what we've seen today, based on some of the comments that have been made at the board, I don't know. I can't justify the 8.8 number. I just can't.
Okay. And then I guess possible ways to cut that number down, like the clearing and the tree removal, is that something that we could exclude from the contract and possibly handle on our own or use a different?
So we have someone on the line from Kenwood Energy. As you talked about a lot of the things that were different in the contract, but some of the things that were included in that particular contract, I believe they had to remove if I'm not mistaken, did you not have to remove a bunch of existing existing solar field on that project as well?
No, we didn't.
Okay. Well, there's some other costs that go into that weren't mentioned, and we'll be prepared to talk about that on Monday. But there is no apples to apples comparison, but just based on what we have seen, industry standards, that's where we're really at right now. If you want more detail, we can either do that today, but I think we'd feel more comfortable doing it on Monday as Kenwood continues to go through their line by line item, if you will.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any members of the public that want to address this issue? I don't see anybody here, and I'm guessing there hasn't anybody online. Okay, anything further from staff? Ryan, anything further?
No, but thank you.
Anything further, Asha?
No, not at all.
Okay.
We'll be back here on Monday and we'll see where.
Monday, sounds
We'll
good.
work with your
Oh, I'm
staff,
sorry, did you have
in the
some-
meantime?
You had a follow-up question that you wanted to ask?
No, I will save it for Monday.
Save it for Monday, okay. All right, thank you, Asha.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Item 9, award of contract agreement for the supplemental environmental project to R.E. Chafee Construction Incorporated. It's recommended to authorize the interim general manager to execute contract agreement to complete the supplemental environmental project in the amount of $390,877 plus a 10% contingency for a total of $429,964.70 to R.E. Chafe Construction Incorporated, and augment the project budget an additional $250,000 for the cost of construction and inspection, and authorize the interim general manager to do all things necessary to complete the project. Brian?
Thank you, President Martin, members of the board. Eric Weck, our engineering manager, is prepared to discuss this in more detail. This supplemental environmental project is the septic to sewer conversion project related to our settlement agreement with the state of California, the regional board. Eric? Would you like to continue?
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you, General Manager Macy. Appreciate it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so good afternoon, President Martin and members of the board. Item 9 on today's agenda pertains to the award of the supplemental environmental project to R.E. Chafee. The SEP project is a septic to sewer conversion project to mitigate the potential of groundwater impacts from septic systems, and is in response to the settlement of an enforcement action with the Colorado River Basin Water Board. MSWD proposed to develop and complete a supplemental environmental project, also known as a SEP, to meet the requirements from the Colorado River Basin Water Board. Now, 21 properties were selected based on their proximity to existing wells and the feasibility to have them connected to the existing sewer collection systems that are currently in place. The SEP project was advertised for the typical 30 days, and the bids received from the 3 contractors were from Legacy Craft, R.E. Chafee Construction, and TriStar Construction. Staff analyzed the bids and the state contractors' licenses of each of the bidders and found that the bid documents submitted from Legacy Craft did not meet their contractor's license requirements, which is a Class B. Based on the bid analysis and the public contract code for the submittal of bids, Legacy Craft needed to list 2 separate subcontractors with specialties that pertain to plumbing and septic and sewer systems. Only 1 subcontractor was listed. Staff also reviewed the bid received from R.E. Chafee, which is a Class A license, and that meets the requirements of the public contract code and are seen as and staff sees them as the lowest responsive bidder. Likewise, we ran this issue through our legal counsel, and they came up with the same conclusions. So on Monday, staff would recommend that the board award the SEP construction project to RE Chafee and direct staff to do all things necessary to complete the project. Are there any questions?
Yes. Ted?
No.
Ivan?
No questions, thank you.
Robert?
Of course. One is out of curiosity, I see TKE is overseeing the bid process for this project. Is there a reason that we use them to oversee bids?
When we were, yes, in this particular project, because they are one of our on-call services, we asked the three companies which one has the most expertise in this. They are working with us on the M2 project, which is the third of the three projects that's related to the regional project with the conveyance line, and then M2. A component of M2 is also septic to sewer conversion. So because they were already had all those specifications already ready to go for that project, it seemed that TKE was best equipped and gave us the best price to do it on this particular project. So because of that relationship with that project, they were deemed the best in this particular project as well.
Okay, so do you not see the irony that on page 107, the company that missed deadlines leading to a violation is determining that a contractor is responsive?
They did provide, yes, they did provide a recommendation, but that was also vetted through JP's firm as well.
Okay.
That the deeming them of non-responsive was done by our legal counsel, not necessarily TKE, but I get your.
As part of the settlement, were we required to abate 21 properties, or is that what we determined we were going to based on the settlement amount?
It was in the paperwork between us and the Colorado River Basin that the minimum amount of properties would be 21.
Okay.
The way we got to 21 is 175 divided by, I believe we were looking at anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000. We said 8. So when we said 8, that's how we got to the 21 number. Unfortunately, when we went out and bid the project, it came in twice that.
Right. So so because we have that agreement, we're kind of stuck with that minimum
Yes,
number.
it's the minimum number. Yes.
Okay. Okay, and then question. So it's my understanding that some of the properties that were in closer proximity have declined to take us up on this, and that's why the cost is more because they're more spread out. Is that correct? Or is that incorrect?
I do not believe that is the case. They are, the fact that there's properties all throughout the city is what the mobilization at each location has made it more expensive than just having a line of 10. But I don't believe we had any one of the first 21 that were not part of it. I think Marion handled that coordination and making sure that we had the right of entries.
And they've submitted their applications as well.
Good afternoon. Yes, interim manager Brian Macy is correct. All of the ones in the first area did accept. And it's more about the fact that they're spread out from location to location, and it's not so much based on the fact that they didn't.
Okay, so we've had no refusals from that original group. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Amber, I saved you for last this time.
Thank you for asking that final question, because I was one that was misunderstanding that fact. So thank you for clarifying that. My understanding, which was just clarified, was that our initial bid process was based on the fact that they were in a tighter location of each other. And so that was probably why there was more cost to it this way. I still think that seems to be the case though. Am I correct in saying that basically we have 21 separate construction projects that this person there's not any way to combine any of them in any way, right? So basically we're having to pay for 21 separate start and finish construction projects, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
No further questions.
Okay. Anything further from staff?
No.
Okay. Moving on to discussion items, the Nancy Wright Regional Water Reclamation Facility update. Anything further on that?
Steve, are you prepared to give a presentation today, an update today?
Yes, I am.
Great. Thank you, Steve.
Good afternoon, General Manager Macy, President Martin, members of the board. I'll give you a quick presentation on construction progress Bear with me where I share my screen. Okay, so through the month of August, the contractor is completing kind of outfitting different components of the plant. Seen here is the influent channels and the grit pumps that remove any grit before it makes its way into the treatment plant. In addition, these are a lot of the mechanical piping and equipment that goes in each of the basins. Shown on the left-hand side, the bigger pipe is the pipe that takes the water into the SBR tanks, and the smaller pipe is the pipe that takes excess sludge out of the tanks. In addition, the contractor received the decanters, which are shown there on blue and yellow. That takes the fresh water or the treated water out of the tank and sends it down to the infiltration ponds. In addition, you can see additional progress on the air piping and the hand railings and platforms needed for maintenance and operation of the plant. The plant drain pump station and aerated sludge storage areas, we received additional equipment there, including valving, piping, and the actual blowers for the aerated sludge storage area. We received the odor control system, and that's being moved into place on the pad near the headworks area. The air piping, due to different thermal properties, it can't be buried, so it had to be put into a specific trench. So the contractor is seen here constructing that trench. It's a concrete, basically, channel that the air piping will go from the blower room within the operations building and then make its way up to and into the SBR basins. In addition, they've completed the on-site water system. Shown here, they're hooking up the testing of the on-site water system, and they began with testing pressures. And then following that, they did their chlorine and bacteriological testing to make sure that the system was okay and clear for connection to the district system. In addition, they made additional progress on the electrical systems, putting in additional conduits, now connecting to all the piping that goes out to the different areas within the plant. The emergency generator slab is shown here being poured with large conduits that make their way into the electrical room to backfeed the system should there be any disconnect or power interruptions with Edison. In addition, construction finally commenced on the spreading ponds. As you may recall, we had a burrowing owl on site in the location of future pond number 1, the westerlymost pond. So we've been on hold during bird nesting season while that bird, completed mating season. The birds had fledged from the nest. So we were gearing up to complete construction in that area on September 1st. But following the flood events towards the end of August, one of the burrowing owls was back. So we're working on getting approval from the state with our approved burrowing owl mitigation plan to come up with a relocation strategy so they can complete construction. But as of now, we're able to start construction on 2 of the 3 ponds out the south end of the site. In addition, the fire sprinkler system is going in. That's all the red piping. All the red piping drops. You see, this is the control room with the different meeting rooms, bathrooms, restrooms, wash areas, storage room, lab, and control room. In addition, the main HVAC system that will be mounted up on the roof is going in. All that equipment's in. All the interior piping is nearing completion. Regarding storm impacts, again, nothing really major happened on site. There is some kind of localized drainage issues for areas that will ultimately be paved and have a way for any water to make its way off site. But in essence, all the water that fell on the building made its way down the gutter system and onto the native ground around it. So there was some localized impacts, but again, nothing too major. In addition, some of the slopes around the site that haven't been finished yet received some localized impacts. The primary impact, luckily, was across the street. On the left-hand side shows Sunday the 22nd, or excuse me, Sunday the 20th, and on the right-hand side shows Monday the 21st. In the background, on the left-hand side, you can see a lot of yellow vegetation. And then on the right side, all of that looks white or gray. The Mission Creek Channel was roughly 50 to 100 yards wide. That spread out to about 300 yards wide and made its way all the way up to kind of onto Little Morongo Road, just to the east boundary of the site, but did not impact the site at all. The same can't be said for the conveyance line. Luckily, the contractor, this is the Arizona crossing at Dillon Road, just east of Lower Morongo Road. And they were about a week, not behind, but they were about to construct this portion the following week of the storm. And luckily they hadn't, because that pipe would have been washed out. So we've had to leap this area and begin construction of the remaining portions of the conveyance line from here west until a solution is identified on how the city and flood control district plan to repair not just the crossing, but also manage the stormwater that has now cut a deeper flow path through this area. We'll likely need to lower the elevations of the storm drain, or excuse me, of the force main when it goes through here. But luckily we have a couple months until we need to make this additional connection while the city and again, flood control district kind of work through that. Regarding the State Water Resource Control Board funding update, our phase one, our reimbursement request, on August 24th, we received payment from the State Water Board for our first invoice. That was just north of $20 million. And we're currently preparing the second invoice for Q2 of this year, as well as additional soft costs and change order costs that were not processed as part of the first reimbursement. The state elected to or asked us to take those out of the first payment and put them into the second, so they could get that first payment processed faster per the district's request. So we're working on packaging all that up, and we'll be sending it up to the regional board before the end of the month. On the phase two conveyance line, I've sent another update request to the state board regarding the final budget approval for the conveyance line that was submitted back in May, and I have not yet received a response. And then with that, second, sorry. Regarding the schedule, the plant was scheduled to start receiving water at the end of November to start clean water testing and begin actual startup and commissioning in December. On September 8th, we received a letter from the contractor that their supplier Eaton has delayed the delivery of the motor control centers needed to complete plant startup and operation. So that delivery date has now pushed from the end of this month, September 28th, to early December. We don't know yet what that total impact is to the schedule. We're waiting on an updated schedule from the contractor. Once the CM team gets that, reviews it, gives me an update, I will bring that to the board. We knew there would be a potential delay with this, but they are scheduled to complete or have substantial completion of everything else within the plant by the end of next month. So over the next 5 or 6 weeks, they'll in essence be done with everything but setting those motor control centers and doing the startup and commissioning. Last item regarding the notice of violation. On October 28th, the regional board issued a response to the notice of violation letter 10 days after they issued the notice of violation, and provided the extension that we had requested from the regional board. So the extensions were granted for both the construction of the third monitoring well and for the securing of agreements to monitor additional down gradient wells. In addition, they've said that there will be no enforcement actions. Regarding the construction of monitoring well number 3, following the owner's approval in May, we've completed the appraisal reports, and those have been provided to the property owner. And we've been working on getting a meeting scheduled with them following their review. They notified us last week that they're ready to sit down and meet to begin the negotiation process. We're hopeful that we can get that worked out and bring that to the board for approval in October to purchase the easement necessary to drill, access and drill this third monitoring well. Regarding the additional securing agreements to monitor additional wells down gradient, the delay with this one has been that we need agreements with third parties and our neighboring agencies for wells that are not within Mission Springs service area. So we've had positive coordination over the last couple of weeks with one of the new developers that just drilled a new well down along Palm and I-10, which is one of the areas where we need coverage. And then we're continuing to coordinate with Coachella Valley Water District regarding access to one of their wells that has changed ownership, and they have not been able to secure access themselves. So we're still kind of working through that process. So with that, I will open it up for questions.
Okay, Robert. Nothing. Amber?
I think you meant August 28th was the letter you received, not October, just to clarify for the public that might be watching. The other question, the question I have, I understand you obviously have some issues to work out in regards to the 2 extensions. Can you please tell our board what the extension dates are? So we can add those to our own personal calendars this time?
Certainly. So one item regarding communication, we've been in contact with the regional board throughout this process. We've asked that, or they have asked, and we're obviously amenable to doing quarterly updates so that we can continue to track these as we go forward. So they extended, hold on, I'm trying to pull it up. I didn't have that in front of me. They extended the monitoring well agreement by 12 months, which takes us back to, hold on, I'm pulling it up. Bear with me. That date is set for May 23rd of 2024. That is to complete the drilling of the 3rd monitoring well and submit the final report to the regional board that that permit stipulation item F4 has been completed. Excuse me, that one is F3. Now, regarding the other monitoring wells that we need to monitor, we've asked only for a 6-month extension, so we need to provide our quarterly update by the end of this month, and that due date for that is October 28th. So there's a potential that we'll have one of the other monitoring. So we have 9 monitoring wells, or 9 wells that we need to monitor once annually and sample to track downstream impacts for TDS and nitrates. And we'll likely get one of those worked out before October 28th, but the other one, that property owner has not coordinated or replied to any of the attempts to reach out to them and secure some kind of an agreement to access that well. And again, that well is managed by Coachella Valley Water District. So we've asked the consultant who prepared the monitoring plan, West Yost, to provide us with a supplemental well, or wells plural, in that area. The problem we're having is the location due south of the treatment plant. There's a large gap there's very few wells right around I-10, Indian Canyon Drive and I-10, because the closest wells are on the south side of the Whitewater Wash. So the problem we're having is identifying a well in that kind of zone just south of the plant that would meet what the regional board's after and not be so far south that it's not really tracking any true impacts from the plant. So that's why we've had the consultant who prepared the plan to pull that information together so that we can try to contact a couple more well owners to see if we can get a sampling agreement in place.
Okay. Thank you for that. I had another question, but I'm going to save it for now. Thank you.
Okay. Ted?
Yeah, excuse me. I'm glad that you're protecting that burrowing owl there. They're really great little owls if you can walk right up to them almost. And most of them have been wiped out throughout the wash areas where they used to be, and it's really sad. So I hope you guys are able to find a nice, safe location for them, and they'll continue to have them little babies. I noticed you had a new landscape photo when you.
No, that's the same rendering that was done back in the design years back.
All right, I was under the impression you were going to have something new for us today, or I guess I misunderstood.
I don't believe so.
No, okay.
No, I don't. Director Meyerhoffen, I don't have a new
There's no hurry.
a schematic or picture to show you, but we did receive your comments on the last go around, and we're going to work with staff to figure out if they want changes or what changes they want to the planting palette per your comments in August.
Okay, thank you. I think Director Griffiths had an idea too. We're gonna maybe kick around and see. So I appreciate you working with us. That's all.
Ivan?
Yeah, my question is more regarding the conveyance line. I know the motor control delay is probably giving us a little wiggle room, but are we able to do the conveyance line now other than that Edison easement and the Dillon wash? Can we start at opposite ends and kind of work to those to have everything ready once flood control in the city and hopefully our issue with Edison gets done, that it's just small patches to install?
Yeah, Director Sewell, that's exactly what we're doing. We've built the component from Little Morongo up to the wash. We've leapfrogged the wash, and we're going to build the other 2 miles up to the lift station, complete the connections at the lift station, while the city's working out the issues at the Dillon crossing, and while we're working out the issues with the Edison crossing on a parallel path.
And then do you see, depending on what they do with the grade and elevation of that, could that add to our cost? Would we need possibly a bigger force to?
There will likely be a change order associated with that. If flood control keeps the crossing where it's at, it's about 8 feet deeper than it was. We would need to drop our pipe not just 8 feet, but allow for some buffer between the two from the new low flow crossing. So dropping that pipe 10 feet will have a cost associated with it, but it will be within the contingency that the board has approved for items like this that come up.
And then I don't know about being proactive or what the plan is at the wash, if maybe there was additional protection of that line planned, or if that's something that we could add. Just ideally we don't see another 250-year storm in the next few years, but would it make sense to kind of bulk that up proactively?
Yes, Director, so it would. We are going to recommend some kind of additional measure to the district to consider. And that will likely be a steel casing that the 12-inch PVC pipe would sit in. It would be able to kind of anchor that down so that if it does get exposed, it doesn't immediately take out the pipeline itself.
Okay, and then I guess last question, should that conveyance line get delayed and the motor control comes in and we're ready to commission the plant, do we have enough flows from other areas without the conveyance line? Or I feel like that's the majority of the flows, right? Other than
that's our connection for the seed flow. So we have to have that done by the time we're ready for startup and commissioning of the treatment plant.
Okay.
So that has set our kind of timeline to get it done.
But there are flows from Indian, like the Coachella and other projects that are going to eventually connect. It just
they will eventually connect, but the infrastructure is not in place today to make use of those flows for startup.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Did you have something else?
Yeah, it's actually for Interim General Manager Macy. So since there will probably be increased costs based on what we experience, can we check to see if there might be any kind of funding regarding that? In other words, there's going to be emergency funding because things were washed out. Is hardening our lines and maybe having to dig deeper and extra costs? Can someone take a look and see if there's any funding that would help to cover that cost?
Absolutely. In addition to some of these areas that we're making reference to that was damaged in the storm, we're also going to be looking at possibly including the road and other improvements that have been added to the project, the entire project. So that $68 million grant, we're going to be asking for additional. We will have the opportunity to do that. That's probably the easiest mechanism to add to that particular grant. Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's our plan right now, is to ask for it, because as Steve mentioned, the changes that we would be making would be within the existing contingency, and it's already built into those projects and the construction cost of those projects. So should not be an impact as we see it right now, but we will have the opportunity to go back and ask for additional funding if necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Amber.
While I have Mr. Ledbetter with us, given last month's discussions, what is your company doing to ensure that we do not experience any further delays in responsive reporting to agencies that you're required to report to?
Great question, Director Duff. We've made changes internally. There's no excuse for missing that deadline. And we take full responsibility for that. What we have done is we've changed our communication protocols internally and between Mission Springs and the regional board. Again, set up to do quarterly updates with the regional board. And provide them with regular check-ins, not just at those quarters, but when anything changes that we are aware of. So that was one item to make sure that they're not impacting, or that also, builds in some buffer time as we approach the newly set deadlines for reporting on these permit requirements. We reassessed the project timeline and established a revised schedule to kind of help in securing the necessary easements and agreements. And again, what we thought was in the extension letters back in that we prepared back in May and June are obviously, we look fine for the drilling of the well, but not for the monitoring well, the wells we need to monitor. So that's going to be continual in flux, but we are monitoring that. Regarding resource allocation, we have kind of reallocated resources and, to the director's points that have been brought up in the past. It was becoming overwhelming for myself in particular to manage everything. So we have shifted all CM duties for the conveyance line portion to Terry Renner. He's our senior vice president. For some of our design projects, including the roadway design for the regional plant, that has been shifted to one of our other project managers, Octavio Parada. So we've made those changes internally to make sure that we're applying our resources in the best interest to the district as well. We have enhanced oversight. We've implemented kind of oversight and monitoring procedures in-house. And that includes not just myself, but my staff. I have 2 additional staff, those at the subordinate level helping out and those on the administrative side, that we're all keeping track of these types of deadlines, and not just the deadline itself, but making sure that we're going to meet the timelines that we have requested for the regional agencies in particular. We're going to, we continue to review our internal process and see where we can make improvements. I'm not going to sit here and give excuses. We made a mistake, and we're trying to make the necessary changes, we've implemented changes over the last several months to make sure that that does not happen again, and we're going to continue to follow those.
Great. And then in regards to the delay, this was the other question that I had, and I'm going to get it out. But in regards to the delay that we're experiencing on those electrical panels, is it falling on TKE or will it be falling on MSWD? I don't know who the best person to answer this question is, to talk to them about the construction costs that we will have on site while we are waiting, while those construction workers are waiting for those items to be delivered. Obviously, that's going to extend construction costs to the project and to the district. And if I'm understanding correctly, we picked them because in a sense, they guaranteed getting it to us on time and paid extra to do so. So are we, or are you at TKE, who is responsible for working that problem with the company that is now failing to produce what they promised?
So Director Duff, that's a team approach. And to your point, we did make concessions with the contractor back in May or June of last year to switch their manufacturers to Eaton, because Eaton promised that they could deliver versus the manufacturer they had provided in their bid. They are now failing to perform. That has been a topic of discussion. We have quarterly partnering sessions where we meet with district staff, construction management staff, TK, part of TKE's team, the design team, and the contractor, and we've been continuing to assess that situation. We had our last one in August, and at that August meeting, we were under the impression that they were going to be delivered on time. So that has been a topic of the discussion, is what are the cost impacts related to that? I can't put it any other way than that's a slippery slope, because while we will be incurring the district, will be incurring costs, they will also be incurring costs for managing the site, their personnel that are still associated on the job. So we're working our way through that, but these partnering sessions have been really beneficial to, it really is a give and take, but we're going to continue to monitor that. General Manager Macy and I have a follow-up partnering session with the contractor at the beginning of December already scheduled, and that will likely be the focus of that discussion at that time. So what we're attempting to do, or not attempting, our plan of action is that, as kind of I mentioned, the next 5 or 6 weeks as all the other construction work on site is done, we are winding down staff. So Answer Advisory, who's our sub-consultant, they are running point on the treatment plant. Their staff will be they will not be on site any longer. Our inspector will only be focused on the conveyance line. My role and it will subsequently diminish accordingly. We are not intending to have staff full-time sitting on the project while it's idle so that we can try to help mitigate those cost impacts to Mission Springs.
Great to hear that. In addition to those meetings that you're holding and the one that you're planning, and I know Interim General Manager Macy is full aware of my belief in this, it is extremely important that we document their potential breach of their duty so that we do not find ourselves in a position down the road where we didn't document as we should, so therefore we accepted things as they are, when in fact for our community that's not something we're really accepting. So I just want to put that out there, that it's equally important to provide proper documentation to protect the district for these types of contractual failings. I know that things happen and that we have to be somewhat fluid in working with each other. But at the same time, contracts are contracts, dates are dates. And it is very, very important that people start understanding that Mission Springs expects to get what we paid for. And we may be a small community, but we serve a lot of people and we deserve the same respect everywhere else. And the contractors and all of those who provide services to our area should understand that we will not be sitting quietly as we take it as it comes, that we deserve what we paid for. So I appreciate your time and answering those questions. Thank you.
President Martin, I have a last thing.
Yes, Ted, go ahead.
Concerning the, I feel like I was a little bit hard on you last meeting with the regional delay there with the paperwork. It's our, the district also has a responsibility to look and make sure that all the contractors are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I put all the blame on you and I shouldn't have. I believe it's part of our responsibility also. So it was a combination of the district and you kind of letting it be forgotten about and get on your calendars for some reason. So, and I do agree with what Director Duff has to say, but we're all here to work together, and we don't work together, we end up with these problems. So thank you, Steve, for your understanding and all the hard work that you are doing.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else before we move on? Okay. Moving on to item 11, Critical Services Center and Administration Building Update. Anything further on that?
There is no update on the Critical Service Center at this
Okay.
time.
Item 12, Developer Contractor Handbook Guidelines for Design and Construction of Water and Sewer Facilities Update.
Thank you, President Martin. Eric Weck, our engineering manager, will be giving this update.
Thank you, Interim General Manager Macy. Good afternoon, President Martin, and members of the board. I'm going to attempt to share my screen here. Should be this one. Okay, so you should be seeing the MSWD webpage, is that correct?
We see it. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so this pertains to the upcoming districts, developers, and contractors handbook revision. This is merely as a discussion item and a receive and file. The purpose of this item is that staff wants to educate and let the board of directors know that what resources are available to you, as well as folks that are out there that may come up to you and ask, like developers ask, hey, how do I get a project started? Or how do I get something processed through your district? So I've got the website shown here, and hopefully you can see where I'm going. So I'll get into some of the other details throughout this informal presentation. So the developer and contractors water and sewer guidelines is found under the development tab. And then you click that. And then the actual handbook and guidelines is right here. It's a PDF and it's about 15.38 megabytes. So it's pretty hefty. It's about 230 some odd pages. You should see the title sheet or the cover sheet of the handbook itself there.
Eric, I think your sharing screen just stopped.
try this again.
There you go.
Thank you, sir. So what is this handbook and what's it used for and who's it geared for and why do we have it? So let me show you the document and some of the items that are in it. Basically, this handbook is meant for developers as well as engineers and contractors that are working for the developers. And so this was updated back in September of 2012. And since that time, there have been some policy and procedure changes here at the district, as well as some updates to our approved materials list and specifications. And these were changed as a result of change of manufacturers or change in technology, change in materials, things like that. Sometimes manufacturers get bought out by others and then they change their product lines on pipes and valves and things of that nature. So I'm not going to go into all of the changes, all 230 pages of changes that are in this older version of this handbook. We would be here until probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I don't think anybody's interested in that. But I wanted to show you the document and kind of highlight and touch on some of the items that we will be changing. And next month we'll have something that is a little bit more concise. And looking at the newer version of it, I'd say it's about 99%. We just need to make sure that we're comfortable with the changes here in engineering, and then we'll present it to you, let you take a look at it. But just want to make sure that you have access to this September 2012 version on our website. So feel free to take a look at it. And this document is really for developers and contractors and engineers. It identifies the design criteria for water and wastewater systems, talks about some of the items of concern, like such as corrosive soil. I don't believe that's going to be changing as much. Backflow preventers, as well as wastewater system facilities, manholes, things like that. And section 4 here, plan, format, and requirements. These are the expectations that we have for engineers to deliver to us plans that are competent, that are easily to read, that has the pertinent information to be able to construct these improvements in the district boundary. And so it identifies and outlines and provides an envelope for engineers to abide by. And then that way we're able to get plans that make sense, as well as we can have these plans for future reference if necessary. It also goes into some of the construction procedures, agreements, okay, water system construction agreements, as well as wastewater agreements for on-site wastewater participation waivers, things like that. And then we're getting towards the end here. It goes into technical provisions. Those will be updated. Materials, those will be updated as well. And then you can see some of the items of construction like ductile iron pipe specifications, submittals. In this version here, the 2012 version, if you flip through it, you'll see some process flows on, okay, you request a application from us, you fill it out, you give it back to us, then we go through the process of reviewing it and making sure that you have the proper property documents like a deed or any proof that you own this property and it has the property owner's name on that application that matches the deed as well, things like that. Section 7 here, sewer lift stations and force main guidelines. This has come up very recently that we've communicated with 2 developers just on the south side of the Nancy Wright Regional Reclamation Facility, their shop off as well as the Amazon site. And we've been working with them. We've given them these requirements on lift stations and such to be able to ultimately connect up to our new treatment facility. Finally, what staff is going to be doing, actually, what staff did in September of 2012 is they separated out, you'll see approved materials. Back then, they separated it out from the handbook, and that allows staff to keep more of a up-to-date version of the approved materials list. Like I said earlier, the manufacturers change, the materials change, things like that. So that would not necessarily require board approval. And then what engineering is also going to do is propose to have section 9 here, Mission Springs standard drawings. Those will be pulled out from the contractors and developers handbook, and they will be updated on an as needed basis more frequently, say, than 2012. I believe staff has just about completed those updates. There's probably 30 some odd standards that covers water and sewer construction standards. So that'll be separated out, and then we can update those as necessary throughout the year. So we're not going to go into all of the updates now, and then in October we can touch on some of the major updates. We're just about done with the revisions. So it looks like the newer version of the document will be around a little more than 100 pages. So that's definitely an improvement in easier, more user-friendly document and resource for developers and engineers as well. I would encourage the board to take a look at this and let us know what your thoughts are. This is definitely something that it's basically the rule book for developers and contractors and engineers to get their projects processed and reviewed and ultimately approved by the district. Short of that, are there any questions?
Yeah, just to point out that we don't have a copy of that document to peruse and to provide input down there. Can we get a copy of that for board members to look at?
Yes, sir. I can get you a updated version of this September 2012 handbook.
Okay. Okay. Yes, Amber?
Just one comment off of just the perusal that you just shared with us. If you are able to work with IT as you get this live on the new one live on the website, have the table of have the table of contents where you can click on those specific documents and go directly to it from the table of contents, so that if one of these developers or if a homeowner is going through it, they don't have to scroll the 100 pages. They'll be able to click on the topic that's applicable to them, just like our agenda does, where when you can click on the agenda item and see all the documents that are part of that, do the same thing on the table of contents. That's the only thing right off the top of my head that I saw.
Yes, ma'am, that's definitely achievable.
Robert? Nope. Ted?
Yes, I believe I was looking at this when I first got elected, and I noticed it said 2012 on it, and I just kind of left it alone. I'm glad it's being updated. And I noticed there was a section in there on chain link fence and gates. I'm sure you checked with the city, with their ordinances and now on their chain link fences and gates. And I'll be looking over that landscape part of it. So thank you for getting this all straightened out. I'm glad we're on the right track with this now.
Ivan?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, and I'm not in need of a copy. I can pull it offline, but one thing that just stuck out to me, and I guess a question of the end of section 1, there was like Riverside County, and then the next item was MSWD model home. Should that MSWD one be City of Desert Hot Springs? Because I'm assuming the Riverside County residential requirements are within our service area as well. or are they specific? I don't know if my question makes sense.
I believe Riverside, there is a portion of Riverside County that that covers MSWD and then as well as the city of Desert Hot Springs. So we have to deal with both agencies.
Right, so I guess my question is that 10602, should that be City of Desert Hot Springs residential? Because both, have
Yeah.
both county and city properties?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And just for clarification there, Ivan, that's online.
Yes.
Okay, does
I think
anybody,
you were out of the room maybe when you pulled.
This is the old version now.
yeah, does anybody need a hard copy of that, or you are so happy with accessing online? Online, okay, you don't need to provide us a hard copy. We can access it online.
Just to be clear, this is the old copy that's online.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Can you send us a copy of what you got done so far?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. There are two items on the consent agenda. The first being item 13, approval of minutes for August 9th, special meeting, August 17th, study session, August 23rd, board meeting, and August 23rd, special meeting. Second item on the consent agenda is a register of demand totaling $368,916.31. Review this over the weekend, and if you have any questions or concerns or want to pull anything for discussion, do so on Monday. Moving on to directors' reports. Does anybody want to give their directors' reports today? Good.
Monday, please.
Huh?
Monday. please.
Monday? Monday, unanimous. All right. General Manager's report.
Thank you, President Martin. We do have a general manager's report. It's provided as part of the document. We also have Arturo, our Director of Finance here, as well as our Government Affairs and Public Affairs report as well. Arturo, would you like to give your report today?
Thank you, General Manager Macy, President Martin, and distinguished members of the board. I will be quick with the information that I'm going to share with you today. Let me share my screen. The information that you're seeing here is through June 30, 2023. Rachel, the accounting manager, and her staff are in the middle of finishing the audit information. We should be done by the middle of next month. So they're still making adjustments, but this gives you a good picture of where the district ended. We are still making adjustments, so these are not final. I will bring back the final numbers to show where we ended up in the year. Primarily in the net operating income, it is less in terms of the actual. However, compared to last year, it is higher. In terms of the revenues, that's a slight decrease. And as you remember, we've been talking about the decrease in consumption and some of those numbers going down. That's the main reason for the decrease in revenue. In terms of the expenses, as can be expected, everything is going up from prior year. COVID especially made that pretty clear. However, then you look into the non-operating revenue, that's the major item in here. And as you know, the grant, the way that it works is we only get it once we expense it. And up to the June 30, we had expensed a little over $25 million. So we have to report it as revenue and also as receivable from the state, of which we received 20 million, and the rest is still pending based on their approval process. Our debt service ratio right now is 9.36 based on those numbers. That means that basically we can make 9 times the amount that we have to pay throughout the year in debt as it stands. based on the amounts of revenue that are coming into the district. The investment return, it is getting higher. Obviously, the interest rates are going up, and that's the direct correlation here. The Wells Fargo loan interest, at this point, it's basically, we've used up the $15 million. And as you can see, we have that earned interest has been going down every single month. In the month of September, it would be zero. All the money that has been received from the state is considered new money, and it's not tied to that loan. However, we're still going to continue to pay the interest-only payments on that of $49,875, and the principal is going to be paid in January of 2025, as you remember. Cash again went down from last year. We ended up with $36 million at the end of the year. And the reason it went down is because it was being used for the construction of the regional plant. Currently, for the month of July and August, we ended up with 34.4 million. Again, more expenses. In August, 54.8 million after we received that $20 million grant check that we deposited. If we were to pay down or debt the $15 million with Wells Fargo, that would be 39 million, which if you see the numbers, it's basically the 5 million from the 20 million received less the 15 that we pay is the 36 plus the leftover 5 gets us a 39. And so the district is looking very good as of June 30, 2023. We're still looking at those numbers, and we'll bring those to you finalized by the end of November at the latest for that board meeting for you to review and approve. But everything is going pretty well. Obviously a lot faster than last year because of how behind we were, but we're getting caught up. So at this point, I'll answer any questions.
Ted? Ivan?
No, thank you.
Robert? Amber?
Thank you. So special. Just thank you so much for your time and for the details and for giving us this heads up, because it's really important for us to be able to start digesting this now, right? One question I have, and it goes to your discussion that you just finished regarding repaying the 15 million. Are you, I know you are, so I'm just going to ask it in this way anyway. I'm assuming that you are keeping track of at what point it's better for us to pay it off.
Correct.
And if we have to do these other financing options, obviously it will be better for us to pay it off, correct?
No.
No?
The short answer is no. The
Okay.
interest rate that we're paying on the loan is 4.5. The interest rate that we're making on that is 5.7.
Okay.
So that is a significant amount of interest difference in revenue that we can keep earning, because again, it is new money. It's not part of that loan. So we don't have to report it to the federal government taxable because it's completely separate, but it is earning a lot more than when we had to pay it back today.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Artur. Public Affairs Report. Marianne.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I just have some highlights that I'd like to talk about from the last month. Definitely additional information is available in your packet. Go ahead, next slide, Kurt. As we step closer to fall, we are definitely seeing an uptick in events. Some of the more notable ones in the past month included a special back-to-school night at Cabot Yurtsa Elementary School, in which we met with almost 150 families as they came to the school to meet with their teachers and learn about community resources available to them. As an added bonus, we passed out backpacks and calendar drawing contest information, crayons and entry forms. And the kids were very, very responsive, and we're really excited about that. We also participated in the DVBA Bowling Bash and a networking event, taking second place. We also hosted a very successful blood drive yesterday, honoring those who lost their lives during 9/11. This weekend, we will be participating in the city's 60th anniversary event. We'll be hosting the Kids Maze, and we will also have an informational booth and fruited water station at the event. I do anticipate that parking will be very tough that day. Park Lane will be closed. However, our staff and our board members who have their ID badges will be able to enter and park at the courtyard. I do recommend entering through Verbena though, as the park drive will be very congested. Later this month, we will also be kicking off our Water 101 meetings again. As you may recall, we did postpone our August 24th Water 101 due to the storm damage. And we have rescheduled that meeting. We now have pushed it back so that our fourth meeting will be on December 21st. In October, we have several community events that we will be either sponsoring or attending, including the CVEP Economic Summit, Palm Springs State of the City Address, Palm Springs Unified Legislative Breakfast, and a special Halloween themed chamber mixer at Cabot's Museum. So stay tuned and make sure you check your calendars for more information. Go ahead, next slide. As we are slowly getting back to normal after the storm, we do have some small changes coming to our sponsored tour program. For now, we will not be able to tour Mission Creek Preserve. The roads both to Mission Creek Preserve and the Whitewater Preserve are currently impassable. However, I have been in contact with the preserve, and as soon as we are able to offer those tours again, we will do that. I do have a couple of different educators that I have been reaching out to and speaking to schedule those tours, and they will either take me up on an offer to do something at one of our MSWD facilities, or they're hoping that we'll be able to do something in the spring. I'm also partnering with CVWD to provide Project WET training on November 4th. This is a workshop that will provide educators with tools and hands-on activities to share our water message, as well as deliver California's history/social science standards through an environmental lens. All of the activities are tied to Common Core and the next generation science standards, which are very particular for educators. The program attendees will receive Project WET curriculum and activity guide, access to their interactive Project WET portal, Project WET and Project WET Educator Certificate of Completion. I participated personally in this same training last fall, and I'm very excited to bring it to our DHS educators. Morning refreshments and lunch will be provided, and the event will be proctored by CVWD and myself. The workshop is very ideal for any K through 12 formal and informal educators who are interested in cross-curriculum water education lessons. I have been promoting this directly through the schools and with different educators that I have contacts with, but if you know anyone who is an educator and hasn't heard about it, please send them my way. The back to school session also triggers our calendar drawing contest, which solicits artwork from local students depicting water and conservation groundwater protection drawings. 12 winners will receive an Amazon gift card. More information and a copy of the entry forms are available on the district's website. We have been promoting this throughout the last month in several ways, including through paid and unpaid social media posts, flyer distribution through the Peach Jar flyer distribution service, which is through Palm Springs Unified School District. And we're also taking the flyers locally here to businesses and locations where students are. And this includes the rec center, library, skate shop, and yogurt shop. Since this is our third year doing the calendar, Carol and I have been already seeing a very noticeable interest in the contest. We've had students and staff at some of these locations that I just mentioned, very excited to see us with the calendar entry forms and already talking about how they're going to design their entries. And speaking of the calendar, the drawing contest is also one of the 3 stories that we were featured in our August newsletter. Other stories included benefits of the new customer portal and a story featuring the appointment of our new internal general manager. Our September newsletter ties in with the storm and with September being Emergency Preparedness Month. And it also includes a reminder to customers to update their phone and contact information, something that's very important to us. Looking towards next month, I did want to briefly mention that October 7th through 15th is Water Professionals Appreciation Week. Water Professionals Appreciation Week was created in 2017 to highlight the important role water industry professionals and local public water agencies provide the role that we provide ensuring the safe and reliable tap water and wastewater and recycled water for California. Our public affairs team will be sharing social media posts that feature various employees and share their story and work throughout that week. And lastly, this month, we are featuring 2 videos on our social feeds that relate to the Emergency Preparedness Month and also updating customer contact information. Both are featured on our YouTube page and also on the home page slider of our website. And that concludes my report.
Okay, any questions?
Great job. Thank you.
Great presentation. Thank you, Marion. Okay, moving on to item 17, district council comments.
Yes, just briefly, as you know, we fully briefed the Mission Springs versus DWA case, so that we're just going to wait now for a hearing date from the Court of Appeal, and we'll keep you apprised of any developments on that. Also assisted district staff with public contracting matters, also with Public Records Act requests, and then providing assistance in connection with the new treatment plant, including reviewing contracts, dealing with the Edison issue, the easement issue. So, and then also assisting staff with the NG contract. And then we have 2 items that we're working on that we'll be discussing with you in closed session on Monday.
Closed session on Monday.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to director's comments. Ted? Ivan? Amber? Nothing? No. Okay. Or? Okay. I have one item to bring up. And I was contacted regarding my ability to take a seat on the Urban Water Institute Board of Directors. And before I accepted, I wanted to reach out to the board and either get your approval or a recommendation for somebody else if you are unhappy with my appointment on there. Shoot me an email if that's the case. And I'll let everybody know the final determination on Monday. So.
Got a question.
Yeah.
Does that mean we won't see you as much?
Oh, well, no, you might meet me. You're going to see me more.
Well, in that case, I'm going to say no.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, with that, if there's nothing further, meeting is adjourned.